MSR's Elixir 2 backpacking tent.
As much or little as you want, and then you can roll it up and neatly stash it away.
So now we're going to talk about closed cell foam mattresses.
Nemo equipment is really well known for some of its ultralight and backpacking tents, some of which we've done videos to show you folks. But did you know they also make some really awesome family and base camp style tents? Today we're here to show you a closer look at the Nemo Wagontop 4-person tent. During the setup process, there are two pole sections that are very similar, and in fact they're actually interchangeable. They are super beefy. They're more durable than I've seen on a lot of basic 10-person tents or even larger. So that's really reassuring to see. But the reason we thought this was unique and we wanted to point it out is because the spread on these things is absolutely massive. So if you wanted to take this to a music festival event or even some smaller park campsites, you just have to make sure that you have a partner there and you guys are really careful that you're not damaging vehicles or other people's tents and things, because it definitely requires a good amount of space to set this thing up. Wow, this is one majestic entrance to this beautiful tent that you can greet your friends or your family with. Up here we have a large mesh window for ventilation. Something to note though is that on this side there is no backing that you can cover up, but on the other side there is. There's a large door here that actually spans the entire front of the tent. I'll move out of the way so you can see. And you can actually choose to just open up the one D door here. If you want just a simple in and out, or later on we'll actually show you how you can open the whole thing up and tuck it neatly out of the way. There are also, it's a little hard to see perhaps in the shot, but there are 4 zippers total here, so that you can actually slide it to different points of the door if you choose to locate the door on the other side here as well. There is a slight overhang canopy here, just to give you a little bit of protection from the sun. Not much at all protection from other elements, but it is really nice to have that just to keep it cooler in the tent if you're resting during the day. And we've moved on to the side expanse of this tent. There's a very sturdy crisscross pole pattern here. One thing to note though is we actually had to refer to the handy instructions on the inside of the bag. I always hate to do that for a tent, but this sure was one unique setup. So it was super easy once we glanced at these really simple instructions here and got an idea of the overlay. So because of that, we would highly suggest setting this up in your backyard or a field or something before you head out. And since I have the bag here, I just want to also point out that Nemo had a little fun here, and on most of their tents, if not all, they have the major constellations, or the most popular ones anyways, listed here. Back to the side of the tent. One thing we appreciated during the setup process, once we figured it out, was that there is no center pole going across here. On a lot of these 4, 5, 6, 10-person tents, you actually have to walk out into the fabric to try and clip some of these things on. So this allowed us to simply just, once we had the exoskeleton in place, just walk around and clip all these on. It was super simple. But a friend would say is definitely required unless you've got some crazy skills that would allow you to set this thing up by yourself. You'll notice that there is a large mesh window area here. It's secured on the inside, which we'll show you later, but you have the option to drop it down and open up this massive window to let the air really flow through, which would be super awesome if you're in a humid or desert type environment. To note, you could tuck something very lightweight in here, but we wouldn't put anything else heavier than that in there because it is just secured by some basic clips. Another neat feature was right here on the side when we were doing the clipping process. They actually made a neat little Y clip here that allows you to clip onto both segments of poles, so you don't have to wrap it around or try and fumble with the beaner and kind of awkwardly clip this thing in. There's also a great guy line attachment point here, along with and a few others located all throughout the tent, just to make sure you can keep this thing really sturdy if it's pitched in a field or, once again, open desert kind of environment. And I don't know if you can see it in the shot there, but these are once again, emphasis is on sturdy on this thing. And these attachment points, there's definitely no compromise here. These things are wonderfully strong. You might be wondering where I am, or not. But either way, here I am, ready to give you an inside tour of this wonderful tent. Let's start with the exterior vent opening. Here where you can actually open the window right on up. And as you can see on the other side here, I've actually rolled it back and kind of tucked it neatly away. So you can definitely do that with ease on both sides of the tent here. About halfway down, there's a toggle and a little spot where you can pull the toggle here through, which of course you can't see on camera, but you'll just take my word that it's pretty easy to do. And then you just tighten her up. Then, as we mentioned before, there are 4 zippers here. So I can open up the door in this configuration. Or you can do the same on the other side, which I demonstrated earlier. And you can also open it all the way up. Alright, so what we found on tents that have kind of deployed this type of full opening before is that there's 3 pockets here. You don't have to use that pocket, but we definitely found it was really nice and convenient just to be able to kind of neatly tuck all this stuff out of the way into that center pocket. Like so. Makes it super easy to take your gear in and out, or any other number of reasons why you might want a super wide door opening. Check out the stellar view, whatever. Now come on in. Welcome to the interior of the Wagontop 4P Inn. All right. There's tons of stuff to show you inside, so this is kind of a new shot for us. We're gonna try to maneuver around a little bit as we go to really give you a feel for the inside of this tent and how big and spacious it is. Actually, before I get into that, let's take a look at height of the interior space. I'm not sure the exact height, we'll throw that number at you later, but I am 6 feet tall, and there is room for me to kind of put my hands up and do that morning stretchy yawn thing in the morning. Somebody a little shorter could even do some jumping jacks in here if they felt so inclined. So moving on to the windows. So there's actually a window on every single side of this tent. Most of them have a covering, except for the front one, which we'll show you soon. So the side windows, they're the same on each side expanse of the tent. There's a clip on each corner to securely attach that into place. And then in the center, there's some Velcro. So this is kind of neat because you can actually just have it open a little bit, and wow, that just let in an incredible breeze right now because it was getting hot in here with everything sealed up so tightly. Then you just go along, you can add a little bit more if you want, or you can fully open it all the way up by untucking this thing here, and then you can actually roll that window up. Nemo does a really good job of just making sure everything can be visually aesthetic on the inside and the out, as well as just nicely tucked away in a super practical, easy sense. So we have a little doohickey on a string here, and you just take that and you'll feed it through. There's a little ring here. Hopefully you can see that. And I like to just pull that through. Sometimes it's a little tricky to get the doohickey through, so I like to stick my finger there. And once it's in place, you just slide that nice and tight, and it holds the window securely in place to let that breeze really flow in. So next we'll head over towards the rear of the tent, and you can notice that in each corner here, there's another little loop thing, so it could allow you to jerry rig pretty much anything you like to the roof of the tent. You could go kind of crisscross here. You could probably set up a gear loft, and then of course just keep in mind if you do that's where this window does clip in when you do it up. Then moving on to the back here, it's kind of neat that you could seal this thing right on up, and in a similar fashion to the side windows, there are little doohickeys on each side that you can pop out. But before we do that, it looks like I'll be able to give you a clear shot of the seams here. You can see all throughout the tent that they have been seam sealed. Get a closer shot there. So that's great for keeping out the elements, but you have to keep in mind that the tent as we have it set up right now is not a storm shelter for very inclement weather. So just panning back over to the windows here, So obviously, even with this window set up, if it was raining really hard, a little bit of that's going to drip into the side of the tent. We haven't tested it out yet in the rain, but that's pretty much guaranteed for any tent that's ever had this type of setup, like typical on a screen house or dining shelter, things like that. So back to the rear window here. We'll just open that up and let you take a nice peek. Oh, this one was a little bit tangled up. There we go. And once again, there's Velcro in the middle here. And the more of these vents that we open up, the cooler it gets in here and the less I ever want to leave. So you can just flop that right open. You have the same controls on the side where you can open it a little bit or all the way like I have here. And then you can actually just, if you wanted to temporarily just close that up for extra privacy or something like that, you just quickly attach it with just the Velcro. Give you that extra little bit of privacy on the sides and all that stuff. And you can see there is the string here that allows you to just quickly do that back up. And it's fully customizable. You can block the winds on some sides, have them all open, have one open, whatever tickles your fancy. And once again, we slid that through, nicely done up. Super simple, secure, that'll easily last you without having to muck around with it during the day. And then let's move down towards, actually just before we move to the floor, I almost forgot to point out that there is one of these secure attachment points on each end. We're not 100% sure what the intended use was for that, but I would absolutely, without hesitation, run a piece of paracord or rope through here on each side and have a great drying line with the breeze all around. You'd definitely be able to take care of any moist clothes. Alright, so moving down to the ground here, you can see that there are two large storage pouches here, and then moving over to the front end, there are two more storage pouches, and as long as you have the door sealed up, this could also be a storage pouch, but when we were doing that last shot of the outside of the tent, this is where I very much prefer to just kind of tuck in that door if you were to open it wide all the way. You can also notice in the center of the floor there's been some more seam sealing going on to keep this tent as waterproof as possible. And back to the door systems, just so you can see on the inside what it's like. These are the little strings that we use to securely attach the door when I open just the mesh portion. And there are additional ones if you want on the outside if you wanted to roll the main door up and just tuck it sideways. And then the last thing is we just want to show you the vent up top here at the front. This is the vent that's always open and the only one that you can't seal up on the tent. I hope you enjoyed the tour of the Wagontop 4P. We have now added on the front vestibule, which is completely optional in your setup, but it is included in the tent if you think there might be inclement weather. I think it would be great to just, on a nice day, have this piece completely detached and then attach it in the evening if there's a chance some dew might come down or if some rain might come. So we'll have a closer look here at the vestibule, which you can see we have securely pegged it in place here. Lots of different options for pegging and for securing it in general. An adjustable slider down here as well, so you can make it as snug as you need to. And then there's a nice storm flap with both Velcro and zipper coverings. So we're gonna move on inside there and show you that it's actually a pretty decent size vestibule here. One thing to note actually is this is definitely not a flaw in the tent, just kind of a personal preference. But I thought with this whole style of tent, it might have been cool if they had kind of added an extra zipper up here, and then you could open it up and just have a nice extended canopy to just really add to the grandeur of this thing. But that is not at all a negative, just something I thought might be kind of cool, and maybe they'll notice it and include it in a future edition, who knows. But we're gonna continue unzipping here. There is a two-way zipper here, so you have control over how much or little ventilation you wanna let in there. And once you have it opened up, you can actually roll it up here. And just as we showed you earlier on the interior, you can just open this loop up here and reach around the inside. You find the toggle, slide it through and you are ready to go. I'm not going to bother showing you this one. I think you get the idea. And we want to show you a few neat features on the inside of this fly. So moving over here, just gonna switch sides. This was super easy to assemble, and because the tent is already put together, it's just, even in a really windy conditions, you could easily attach this thing. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 snap buckles, and all you do to attach them is just like any other buckle, snap them there. And actually, when we were adding on the vestibule here, we noticed that there's a really sturdy tie down point here, so you could hang all kinds of things there to dry, whatever you want to do, really. We hope you enjoyed the close-up look at the Nemo Wagontop 4-person tent. This tent's also available in a 6-person model as well, just in case this one wasn't quite spacious enough for you and your friends or your brood. We definitely think that this would be an awesome tent for family camping. In fact, so far, we do have some more pretty cool tents to show you, but this is one of my favorite base campers that we've done for the spring 2018 season's videos. Some of the accessories that come with it are some super sturdy steel tent pegs here. They're pretty heavy duty, but since this tent is likely to get pitched in a field or an open area, we definitely recommend having some ground stakes of some sort to really make sure that you anchor this tent, because as beautiful as it is, it's definitely a Wagontop, and you know, we're a little worried that it might be prone to winds if you don't take advantage of the guy line points and anchoring down the corners. Speaking of guy lines, they do include some reflective guy line here, but there's only a couple, so you definitely would want to invest in a couple of extra guy lines or some paracord or whatever, just to make sure, once again, you anchor this thing down really securely the first time out. It also comes, which seems to be standard on a lot of premium quality tents, is it comes with just an aluminum piece here that you could slide over and secure in place. If one of these poles were to somehow splinter, you'd have to really try hard to damage one of these poles, though, because they are some of the beefiest, most heavy-duty poles that we have encountered. The other thing to note, of course, is that while the seams are taped as we showed you, in really inclement weather, you just need to be aware that you know, there could be some leakage around the windows, so maybe as a precaution, if there was heavy rains in the forecast, you might want to just bring an extra tarp that you could use to protect the outside of the tent, or it's always recommended in a desert environment as well, just to try and keep things a little bit cooler and keep the tent material from getting damaged from long-term sun exposure in the desert. Let us know what your thoughts are on this tent. It's big, it's roomy, is it too much, is it too little? We definitely want to encourage Nemo to keep making awesome products like this. So let us know your comments in the section below, and we hope to see you out on the campground.